Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, hour number 2, Monday, December 22nd, right here on Jocks. Glad you're with us. We have been discussing mainly Alabama's win against Oklahoma in the opener of this year's college football playoff. Alabama being down 17-0 tied the largest comeback in college football playoff history. The other, 17-point comeback for Georgia against Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl of 2018. Tied for the third largest comeback in school history, second largest this century, behind a 21-point comeback against Ole Miss in 2016. 27 consecutive points for Alabama after being down 17-0. They scored on 5 of 7 drives after going 3 and out on each of its first 3 drives. The polar opposite of Oregon in their college football playoff game over the weekend, of which we will get to a little bit later in the show. 5 sacks, a high in the season for Alabama. Had 4 of those in the second half. Outgained Oklahoma 362 to 262. Third fewest yards by any team ever to win a college football playoff game. Second worst yardage differential in a win. Greg, there were portions of this that felt like it was the reverse of Alabama's loss to Oklahoma at home about a month ago.
I think it was almost the exact same game, except the other side was victorious. Oklahoma in many ways outplayed Alabama. Oklahoma in many ways did some things that Alabama couldn't account for. But Oklahoma was also their own worst enemy. And while you look at the turnovers, yes, the pick six was huge. Yes, the block punt was huge. But there were other things, too, there in the first half of that football game that could have made it even more challenging. John Mateer rolling out to his left. Throwing the ball downfield, it's dropped. That ball's caught, scores more than likely on a 3rd and 3. And now it's, 24-7? That, I think, is that something that can still be overcome? Potentially, for sure. But I think Oklahoma could probably came out of this game like Alabama did in the first game and said, we were our own worst enemy. We made a bunch of mistakes. We didn't deserve to win. We did this, we did that. If we can secure this and do this a little better, then maybe things would be different. But very, very impressed with the switch that flipped in the second half, Cole. I don't know if you felt the same way. The switch that flipped in the second half, them going to a little bit more of a challenge style defense, them getting a little bit more aggressive on defense, I think that paid tremendous dividends. And Oklahoma was never really able to kind of recapture the rhythm they had early in the game.
I would agree with that. And I'll say that I think Oklahoma played into a little bit of why Alabama was able to come back on how they called certain portions in the game. I have a theory, or at least I was introduced to a theory that I think I'm on board with a lot of, not holistically completely, that I'll get to in just a moment. Before we go back to our callers, though, Greg, tell our listeners about Can-T.
Well, Can-T can fix it. If you have foundation issues at your home, and if you don't know if you have foundation issues, you might not. Maybe just look at the walls. Look around the windows. Look around the doors. If there's cracks there, that might be an indication. If, for whatever reason, doors and windows are not sticking properly, if you're noticing uneven or sagging floors, you might have a problem with your foundation, because there's a lot of factors here in the great state of Alabama that can lead to foundation problems for your home. The soil shifting, uneven ground, moisture, weather, lots, even just the age of your home. So Can-T will offer free inspections and estimates so homeowners know exactly what's going on under their house, and their work is backed by lifetime transferable warranties. Call them today at 205-509-3991, or you can go online to Can-T, C-A-N-T-E-Y, Can Fix It. That's Can-T, CanFixIt.com.
Okay, going to let Glenn in give us his thoughts on college football from over the weekend. Then I'll give you my theory on exactly what I think kind of may have been going on with Oklahoma, at least to an extent. Glenn, what's on your mind?
Hey, fellas, I appreciate it. Enjoy your show. Greg, I just want to tell you do a great job with your commentating. I really enjoy listening to you call a game. I think that
appreciate it, buddy.
Herbstreit probably needs to watch his back on that Thursday night NFL game. You might be taking his job.
Well, that's very kind. Kirk does a great job, too.
He does. So, look, I'm not going to we've not belabored the point of the Alabama-Oklahoma game. Y'all pretty much covered it all. I think it was outstanding comeback, showed a lot of grit, determination, and character. But looking forward to the Indiana game, and I know y'all are going to analyze this many, many times over the next 10 days, but I have to be honest, I've only watched Indiana play Ohio State. And like many of the other callers and people, I've just looked at their schedule. And I'm not going to sit here and say they're not a good football team because they haven't played anybody. That'd be ridiculous. They're a very good football team. They have a Heisman Trophy winner. But I do have to bring up the point. I mean, obviously they had a one-game season against Ohio State. They were able to get up for the game and obviously, get the great victory. But when you look at the player and you look at the matchups, you guys know football a hell of a lot better than I do. But what is your opinion on how they match up with Indiana? I do believe that Alabama doesn't. I agree with Paul as far as the pressures on Indiana, Alabama, and anything to lose. And I think Alabama is certainly more battle-tested when you look what they've went through. I mean, hell, just look at the Oklahoma game. I mean, there's no quit in them. They're a lot more battle-tested than Indiana. How do you think Indiana matches up with Alabama? And, I mean, from a purely recruiting standpoint, I mean, I know, Cole, you're not big into recruiting, but, I mean, they just don't have the athletes that Alabama does. How do you think they match up? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I appreciate the call, Glenn. I don't think it's a great matchup for Alabama. I think this is an Indiana team that we have tried to describe as one that has no real holes, no real warts across the board. They are B+, A- with everything that they do. From an execution standpoint, they're as good as anybody I've watched this year, as consistent as anybody I've watched this year. Now, does that mean that all the receivers can just run by Alabama's DBs, that the offensive line can just handle everybody that they're going to see across the course of a game? No, probably not. But I think the things that you get excited about are maybe where the Alabama offense has grown to and knowing things that they cannot do well. I'd be more excited about where the Alabama defense has grown to. It's one thing we haven't really mentioned yet, Greg. I thought Kane Womack called a hell of a game. I called a great game.
Hell of a game.
Against Oklahoma. He's not going to get a ton of credit for that, and I don't think that's really fair, even though life isn't fair, because I think that when you look at how Kane called it, people are just going to say, well, John Mateer's inconsistent. They can't run the ball. It's not. He was going to call the game based on how it was going, and he took multiple plans in, and I thought he used pieces of all of those plans and was able to keep them sort of off balance and was able to go in and find a way to help Alabama get a win. And they were a big part of it because, obviously, without that pick six, I actually don't think they win the game. We were talking on the broadcast on the radio side, Greg, of how valuable it would be for Kalen DeBoer to go in and talk about how poorly they played to be down a touchdown. Then you go in tied, and you can look at your team and say, there is literally no difference on the scoreboard. We played one of the worst halves of the season. Here's what we're going to adjust. No reason for us to go out and lose this game. And just a totally different message that you're able to go in and disagree on or give to your football team at halftime. And tremendous value with how that played out, and Kane Womack deserves a lot of credit for it.
I think Kane was outstanding. I also think he preyed on the quarterback that will give it to you. For John Mateer to throw a hot route at the end of half at midfield, anticipating cover zero pressure at midfield, which, by the way, they're not doing. I don't know why. Like, you don't go cover zero at midfield. You go cover zero when you get close to field goal range. Try to knock them out of field goal range. With their kicker, you probably start triggering blitzes at about the plus 35-yard line. Why John Mateer thought that was going to be cover two, I could have told you 1,000 times over. They're not blitzing. So why are you throwing a hitch into a trap corner? Look, John Mateer makes mistakes. That's what he does. It's just the way it goes. I believe he's got the same amount of touchdowns as interceptions, or at least close to it. I think it's 13 and 11 or 13 and 12 or whatever it is. So he makes mistakes, and they took advantage of that. This is a far more difficult test. It's not even close. Indiana is legit in every possible way. Now, does that mean that Alabama can't go win? Of course they can. I love where Alabama's at in this position, especially I think Alabama's ceiling is higher. I really believe this. I've said this for a while now. Alabama's ceiling is higher than even the most crimson glassed wearing person thinks. The problem with Alabama is they have to shoulder the burden of expectations, and for whatever reason, there's a little bit of a hesitance from time to time. When they let it rip, they are outstanding. Like, I mean, I'm talking real deal good. But sometimes they're their own worst enemy because they get tight. Because people expect them to win. People don't expect them to win in this situation. Like the world is anticipating Indiana getting the job done in this game. Indiana also probably knows this is their best chance for a while to go and make a run like this, given their roster, the veterans, the carryover from last year, the quarterback, what have you. So who has the pressure? The pressure is all on Indiana. All of it. Every single ounce of pressure is on the Hoosiers. That can be really beneficial because if Bama's playing with nothing to lose, like they did down 17-0, when Bama's playing with nothing to lose, like they did in the games following the Florida State debacle against ULM, against Wisconsin, against Georgia, the 4 games after that, Bama played like the hunter in those games. And if that can carry over to Pasadena, I love their chances of making it interesting. I really do. Tough matchup for sure, but I love their chances.
Absolutely. Some other folks chiming into the show, kind of staying with this A&M game from over the weekend. Cowboy tweets in, the South Carolina game showed us what they really were, referencing A&M.
Yeah, mistake prone and Jekyll and Hyde. I agree. I'm fine with that.
But once again, I don't think we never painted the picture of A&M being Megatron. Thanos. They were never Goliath. I don't like they were never Godzilla. No, we didn't paint that picture of them. This is not what we thought going in.
They're a tough prep. I think they're a good football team. I think they're well coached. They got a great third down defense. Like, I love their third down stuff still. Guys, that's the second best third down defense in college football in the last 25 years. Think about that. Second best. I think if you respect it, Greg,
you might not know ball. I know ball at Targeting Sucks tweets in at Cole Cubelic at Mac and Cube. Here comes tough guy Cole again. Such a hard listen. A&M was never a good football team. Only played bottom half of SEC. I'm looking for Kentucky on the schedule. Oh, I don't see them.
Who's good then? I guess is my question. Like, who's good?
It is a fair
Oklahoma?
question. I know ball also tweeting in at Cole Cubic. The more I listen to you, the more I understand how truly limited your football knowledge is.
I thought Snoop Dogg said don't love them hoes, but all right.
No, he's saying he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
I'd go back and listen to Friday's show.
In all seriousness, like, if we play that game, if we can play that game all you want, I'm fine with that. And hindsight's 2020 and all this other stuff. Who's good? Because if we're going off, because how many people would have told you Bama's not good after the Georgia game? How many people are now telling you that Oklahoma wasn't good? How many people are now telling you that A&M wasn't good? How many people are going to tell you in the event in which Ole Miss and or Georgia loses in the Sugar Bowl, how many people are going to tell you, well, Ole Miss really wasn't? They really just didn't play anybody.
Well, it's coming with Indiana or Alabama. Either way. Alabama shouldn't have been in, or Indiana's been fraudulent for the last 2 years. It's coming after that game.
1,000,000%. I think everyone right now, they operate as such a prisoner of the moment mentality, which is totally fine. It's up to you. You can approach it and evaluate it however you want. We can respectfully disagree. That's perfectly fine. But think about the clamoring right now about the G5 and how they don't belong in the playoff. Well, all because of the performances on Saturday. It's like, I don't disagree with you, but there's a little more to the story here, guys. Like, you cannot exclusively, for example, another example, how many people think Florida's terrible? How many people think Florida's terrible? They're awful. Go talk to any coach right now. And I think coaches, more often than not, kind of know ball. Every single coach will tell you, the reason why this came up, because Florida played both Miami and A&M. So we talked to both coaching staffs, like, hey, who do you think was maybe the best team you played this year? And both said, I got to be honest with you, but I think Florida's right there. I was like, well, you both played Notre Dame. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, Florida was 4-8. Yeah, I know. Like, those are coaches that know ball. So the evaluate maybe A&M isn't as good as their record might have indicated, but it doesn't mean they're not good. Maybe Florida isn't as bad as their record might have indicated. Doesn't mean they're bad. You know what I mean? It just, we can't operate like that. Like, this show's supposed to be cerebral and smart, and I think a lot of our listeners are. I really believe that. I think 99% of our listeners are, and I think they're level-headed. But you can't just take the most recent game and draw this massive conclusion about a team's, quote, fraudulence. It's just not. It's not real. It's just one. It's one data point in a 14 data point game season.
Well, I think one thing that sticks out when you say that, where you're going with that, is consistency becomes much more important. And if there's one thing we have seen this year, I think some people are defining teams good and bad, and that may be a bit of a stretch. That may be a little bit too black and white, and it's the consistency that probably should be brought up more often. Because how many teams have consistently been really good the entire season? Oof. Specifically position groups. I mean, like week 3, I told you Ohio State's winning Joe Moore Award, man. Like they got a bunch of bar bouncers on that little line. Week 10,
they win. Week
10, I'm not sure what I'm watching anymore. It's not the same.
Yeah,
it isn't. So it just, like we talked about with Marcel Reed, there were people propping him up for the Heisman. Watch him next week and tell me that again, because it's going to look different. I don't think it looked truly different for us. I hate coming out saying that, like, the whole "we told you" and whatnot, but like we've been on Marcel Reed all year. We've tried to tell you he misses layups, and the eyes and the feet have gotten 10 times worse than they were earlier in the year. That's good. Against a front that can get after you with fewer numbers, it was going to be a problem. It just was. So we got a lot more to cover, a lot more to get. We haven't even touched on Oregon's win. Haven't even touched on the Ole Miss win. Need to spend time on that as well. I want to leave you with this, though, before we get out of this segment, Greg, because I did tease this. We thought Oklahoma's defense was great. I don't think you and I ever found anything with their offense that was easy to like on a consistent basis. It's fun to like. It's fun to like John Mateer. It's hard to like him as a football player and as a week-in, week-out quarterback because of the inconsistencies. Fun. Watch him run around, which, by the way, the one play where he's rolling to his left and does the hard left leg whip behind his body, I gotta know, like, fundamentally what's happening there. When the kid drops the ball on, I think it was like almost like a scramble drill route. Hell of a throw, but like how he contorts himself that way to make that throw is like beyond physics. I'm not sure he had a foot on the ground when he let go of that ball. That's why is probably the more fair question. But I heard, and listen, like Oklahoma hasn't run the ball well all year. There have been, like this Deion Burks. Where has that Deion Burks been?
Yeah.
Like I tried to convince myself that we were going to get that every week before the season. I don't know if I was wrong or if I was kind of right or if they just couldn't do it. Jared Kanek, first couple games. Where did he go? Where was that guy the rest of the year? So there's been inconsistencies with Oklahoma all year. But I heard an Alabama staffer say this at the end of half when we were getting ready to kick off the second half. And this is not a direct quote, but it was to the effect of this. This team came into this game, and this team built the lead on emotion, intimidation, and motivation. And we don't think that's sustainable. And I had not thought about it, but I also watched some of the Oklahoma players after plays. I watched some of the Oklahoma players in warm-ups. I didn't see a lot of Alabama players chirping. I didn't see a lot of Alabama fans doing extra stuff after plays. You see the personal fouls, which I thought the first one didn't need to be called. The second one I thought was the correct call. You saw a little extra with Oklahoma kind of trying to do some of those things. And I had never thought of it, never considered it. But at that moment in that game, after Alabama had come back and tied it, it kind of hit me as to, boy, there could be a lot of reality with that thought process. At home, all the extra stuff doing around the stadium, all the chirping, and then all of a sudden we're 17-17 heading into the second half. And if that guy's right, we're about to find out. If he's wrong, we're probably about to find out. And it felt like he was really right with the way that second half went.
I think there's a lot to be said about that. And I know and then look, Oklahoma's a little extra. Like they'll push the envelope a bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you got to be prepared to kind of handle that, and they can get in your head a bit. And we haven't really discussed it, but the 50-cent thing might have been the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. I'm not kidding when I tell you this. But that's an example of like a little extra. What are we doing? What are you supposed to do in the biggest possible game of the year?
Oh, I got a whole nother reason I can tell you why it was maybe the dumbest thing Oklahoma's ever done. And it's because I was standing on Alabama's sideline when it happened. And I saw what it did to those guys. They were more into it than the Oklahoma players were.
Keep the main thing the main thing. Like, why are you introducing distractions prior to the biggest quarter of the season? The most important quarter of the season. And you're introducing distractions. Like, they should have, when they were down at that moment, you canceled the hit. Sorry, Fitty, we'll pay you. I don't care. You're not coming out. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's a little extra. And I felt like Oklahoma, if they could do it all over again, I think they'd do a lot of things differently. Probably should have. But tremendous credit to Alabama for flipping it and putting all the pressure back on them and playing with an increased sense of swagger down the stretch. Man, that was the first time I feel like in a while when the Bama defense played with the remarkable swagger and intensity. It was awesome. And they've been good all year. They've been really good on defense for a vast majority of the season. But golly, they played with a different energy. And where the heck did Kelby come from? I mean, he played out of his mind. I mean, whether it's 17, 24, 42, 23, like these guys are all over. All those guys played their tail off, man. It was really fun to watch. So, I think Alabama was outstanding on defense in this game. And they gave up a few. I still think that some of the zone drop coverage is something they got to address because Fernando Mendoza will eat you alive in those situations. But great performance with the pressure. And if there's one thing I've learned from Indiana this year, you can get home. You really can. If the pass rush can play like they played in the second half of that football game, you can get home. Go watch the Penn State game. Go watch some of the other games. And granted, that was a different animal. That Penn State game, they were without their left tackle and their left guard or whatnot. You can get home and you can harass him, and he becomes a little more human. But if he's got a clean pocket, it's game, set, match. So I'm very excited to dive into this matchup over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, let's go to Brian quickly in Birmingham before we get to break. Brian, welcome into the show.
No answer you.
Brian?
Brian.
Oh, hello?
Yes, sir.
Hey, sorry, I just went through Red Mountain. I lost you at the worst time. Can y'all hear me?
We got you.
Okay, hey, just a quick question. I mean, it's hard. I'm an Alabama fan. It's just really hard to watch that first half. Ty Simpson just free rushers coming at him over and over and over again. And I don't understand, and y'all would know this. I have no idea. But, I mean, surely you self-scout and watch the tape from the Auburn game and watch the tape from the Georgia game and say, we're not going to move the ball if there's a free rusher coming at Simpson within seconds of the snap. And you're going up against a team in Oklahoma that has a top-notch, defensive staff. So I just want to have some hope that going forward we're going to have a better plan than what we went into that game with in terms of how to protect. I don't really know even what we did different in the second half. I thought some players made great plays, and obviously the defense really turned things around, field position and whatnot. But my question is really for y'all as former players, offensive line and quarterback. What can we do to be ready to not have him running for his life right off the bat every game?
I appreciate the call, Brian.
I got a good theory on that.
All right, you hold that. We'll discuss Alabama handling pressure in the next round of the college football playoff next, right here on Jocks. Monday, December 22nd, 8:28 a.m. right here on Jocks. Greg has a theory he wants to share with the audience. We'll do that in just a moment. First, Greg, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Funes guys have done it again. They will absolutely get you in a great spot with the amount of inventory they've been able to stockpile. 50,000 square feet of Core-Tec flooring by Shaw in stock. If you just go and take a peek at it, it's unbelievable. Really durable, really dependable. And it comes with that 20 mil wear layer. It's built to last and priced to move. And no one in town has the Core-Tec that Fu has. And he could pass savings of 20 to 40% on to you. It's a deal you just can't touch anywhere else. So remember Shannara Flooring. When you want Core-Tec, call who? Call Fu. Call Shannara Flooring at 205-518-6423. Or you can go online at fuandyou.com.
Share with us how you think Alabama can sort of shore up their protection moving forward, G-Mac.
It's not so much the protection. If you look at how Oklahoma plays, right? Oklahoma, because of how good their pass rush is, their secondary utilizes what you call a bit of a squat technique. They kind of squat on routes. Anything underneath 10 yards, they're going to squat on it. They're going to challenge it because more often than not, their D line is going to get home in less than 2.5 seconds, right? So what do you need to do to attack squat technique? You got to run by them. And it took Alabama a little bit to get there, but they had to have quick hitting vertical throws. Like quick hitters, vertical throws, and you push past the first level of the defense. You get to the second level, you get to the intermediates, you get to attack some of the personnel in the slot. And that's when the things started to open up. You get a couple corner routes against man. You get a seam route against cover two, a little bending seam against cover two. Like you get past the first level, but it's still quick hitting. All intermediate and vertical throws don't need to be slow, longer developing plays. And I feel like Bama finally made that decision. Like, hey, we're just going to push it vertical. Like you got to go, ball's got to get out, and you just got to trust it. And that's exactly what happened. And honestly, buddy, like I think they kind of realized that. Like I feel like a lot of it's been close to the vest, short passing attack, and they finally said, forget it. Like caution to the wind, vertical throws. We're going to attack the intermediates. We're going to get to the 10 to 15 to 20 yard mark. We're going to hit that area, and that's what they killed teams on there in the middle of the season. And they'd kind of abandoned it. Now it's go time to kind of stay in that because guess what Indiana does? Oh my goodness, the exact same thing, baby. Like there's a lot of carryover from that game to this game because Indiana's a very aggressive group and they're a havoc-causing group. So I think it's going to be beneficial to have seen it this past week and to kind of transition forward.
Well, I think, too, it's just different players have to be better in different moments. I think the offensive line was largely responsible for a lot of what happened in the first game. You would include the backs in that. I think Ty Simpson probably deserves a little more responsibility than people are stating about some of the letdowns in the first half of the Oklahoma game. But it's still collective at the end of the day, just being on the same page. And they took what happened to Oklahoma the first time, like you mentioned, squeezing protection earlier in the show. That's something that both Grubb and DeBoer told me pregame that they should have done against Oklahoma the first time around and didn't. Well, they got that corrected. Then a couple of mistakes came off the edge. So you just get it together collectively, and it can be repaired. None of it are things that I look at from a protection standpoint, Greg, and say they can't get past that. It's not like there's a left guard or a left tackle that's just consistently getting beat on the same move over and over again, and teams are just lining up doing the same thing. So just being on the same page, I think moving forward, understanding where some of the letdowns have been, does give you a pretty good chance to be able to manage things against Indiana. So it'll be another good pass rush. It's another good defensive line. You're not going to get to this point in the season and not face guys that can beat you up front. You're not. And so it's just got to be better collectively. And they have taken some of the issues prior, and they've repaired them. So you imagine they take the issues prior to this one, repair them. It's just going to be what does Indiana throw that maybe the emphasis hasn't been on this week in practice or this next whatever in practice. And I think that's where you have potential problems that could show up because if there are things that they have that haven't used a lot of that Alabama doesn't emphasize, you try to mitigate that issue early, make the adjustments in game, and then go from there.
I think the big part of it, too, is not allowing A-gap pressure. Like that, like kind of what we've talked about for a while. Like there were issues the first time around where Alabama was giving up pressure right up the middle. as opposed to letting the unblocked guy come off the edge. I can, as a quarterback, now I think Ty can improve in this area to an extent, but that's if the pressure's coming off the edge, I have a fighting chance to get rid of the ball. I have a chance. You're going to sit there and think, well, it's a difference of 4 yards. Who cares? Well, 4 yards might be a quarter second. If the guy's coming right at me up the middle, he's home in 2 seconds. If the guy's coming at me off the edge, he's home in 2.3. I have time. That's a huge difference as a quarterback. So I think as long as they're blocking it inside out, which they did a nice job of in the second half and making some tweaks in the second half, then I think they're going to be okay. But you know that Bryant Haynes is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. He's going to try to attack right up the middle. And they got really good blitzing linebackers, and those guys will be very impactful in this game. So Alabama's going to be super sound in their communication, super sound in their protection. Then Ty's got to know who's blocked and who's not. And if he does, that should be really helpful.
We do have a couple of tweets coming into the show that I wanted to get to. Royal Payne tweets in, has anyone ever had a between third and fourth live music act before? Is that a trend I missed, or did OU try to start one and drive it into the ditch? I've never seen it. I've never seen that at any game, I don't think. Greg, have you? Live act coming out between third and fourth? I mean, most teams now have their traditions and songs they play, but to bring the artist out, not that that's their tradition, but I've never seen it. No. And I don't think you'll see much of it again. I had not considered the distraction portion of it.
It's not something I'd recommend.
Yeah, I had not considered the distraction portion of it like you brought up. It's a great point. But like I also said, I watched the Alabama sideline while that was going on. It did not hurt them at all. At all. Ty Simpson, Deontay Lawson discussed seeing 50 Cent come out between the third and fourth quarter.
No, we didn't expect 50 Cent to show up, but crazy thing about that is we always listen to Mini Man on Friday, so we definitely got some juice right there for sure.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know that was 50 Cent until later. But I did know that song, so.
And I didn't know it was live.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's pretty good. I do think, and I honestly believe this, like what does every coach talk about when playing a game of significant importance? Keep the routine the same. Make everything feel the same. Love routine. I'm in a rhythm. I have this. I have that. Like I do things a certain way. My third quarter to fourth quarter transition, I want it to feel the same as it did in the 10 wins I have prior to this game. Like why would you change that? Like for a moment, for a viral moment, like it was so short-sighted to me. I don't know what they were thinking. And I sat there and said, "Oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever." As a fan, yeah, as a fan, it's great. As a viewer, it's awesome. It was a great scene. But golly, man, I don't like the impact that it has on your team. Mm-hmm. You got to keep the main thing, and I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't.
Yeah, it was different. And I can tell you, being in the stadium, because of how they started it on the big screen, where it kind of looked like it was a video that had been made, like around the OU stuff. Like I just thought, I was like, oh, he made him a video, sweet. And then I hear the crowd go crazy because I was kind of on the other side of the field, and I was like, wait a minute, he's here? It was kind of cool, but like you said, from the team perspective, don't know if that was your best idea. We'll discuss it more next on Jocks. JT coming up at 9 a.m. to discuss Auburn players in the transfer portal. What does it mean? Should Auburn fans be alarmed by just the number of players that are in? Could there be something else happening? We'll talk to Jay Tate at 9. Richard Hendricks talks college basketball at 9:30 today. But we're talking Alabama, Oklahoma. We spent a lot of time on that game. I want to shift a little bit of the focus to a couple of the other college football playoff games from over the weekend. We mentioned a lot of Miami and A&M. Let's kind of wrap up our thoughts on that one, Greg. I want to give Shannon Dawson a lot of credit for the calls that he made late in the game. Duo down the field basically in a dominant fashion. Give the O-line some credit, Mark Fletcher some credit. I would not have made the call that he made on the go-ahead touchdown, mainly because he had been, how do I state this, overly, and I talked to Shannon after the game. I told him, I said, I wouldn't have made the call. He's like, yeah, but they were pinching the front. I said, I know. I said, but I also know what you had done the rest of the game. And if that wouldn't have worked, I know what the thought process was going to be afterwards. But it was a great call then to be able to get the ball in the end zone. Thought he was a little too cute, a little too creative during the course of the game up until that moment. But to go out there, pound A&M, get the ball down scoring position, then go back to that and be able to get into the end zone, it was a great job by him late, being able to get a win. They were dominant up front offensively. They were. And I give him credit for that also. And Miami's front took care of business, handled things. I don't mind that kind of football game, so for me it was enjoyable. I know a lot of people find ways to feel like it's miserable. But at the end of the day, I give Mario and his crew a lot of credit. I thought putting the ball in the air late, even though it was a good catch, then the fumble, didn't know if that was necessary either. So there were some questionable moments, but at the end of the day, they go to College Station in an amazing environment and find a way to hold on and get a win.
Yeah, it was awesome. And hey, look, the one thing I'll say about Miami, I mean, you were on the field. I was in the booth. How physical was that football game?
It was. Yeah.
Dude. I mean, it was a slobber knocker, man. And like one thing I love very much about Miami's team, dude, they want it to be a WWE cage match. Like that's what they want it to be. Like they want it to be a war. And they will ramp up the physicality on everyone. And that's what they do. I mean, that's just anyone like Mario Cristobal's coached at Alabama. Like y'all know Mario Cristobal. Like, you don't have to have sat in a coach's meeting with him. You don't have to have been around him personally in a setting like that. All you have to do is just listen to the way he talks and look at the way he's built the roster. They want it to be a complete physical bloodbath. And if a game goes that direction, they're going to have a significant advantage against everyone they play. Like, I think they're the most physical team I've seen this year. They are violent. They really are. And while it'll be very difficult against Ohio State, for sure, they're going to have to get more out of the passing game. They're going to have to get more. They're probably not going to get cheap yardage on the ground like they got a little bit in this past game. But I give them a fighting chance. If they can bloody Ohio State's nose, like Indiana was able to bloody Ohio State's nose, I absolutely get them a fighting chance.
I don't think there's any doubt. And again, because they played, let's just say they're not overly aggressive up front with bodies in the box. They can be, but they don't live and die that way. But they can manage things with the front four. And because they can do that, you'll be able to offer up some extra assistance on the back end with those receivers. And that's the same thing we said going into A&M. Miami's secondary can run as well as any secondary that I have seen this year. That doesn't always mean you're the best in coverage, but it does give you some advantages. And I thought what that did against Marcel Reed is it negated a lot of the quick stuff. And so it kind of forced him to go downfield. Here's the one question that I have for A&M, Greg, and I guess we've asked this question multiple times this season, but the stubbornness in the attempt to make him a pocket passer is what I don't understand. He needed help in that game. The ball needed to be out. The pocket needed to be moved. And I don't know why you kept going back to asking him to just be a drop back quarterback, specifically in that game against that group.
Fair enough. I think he is accurate when his feet are set, but he is clearly impacted by I'm not talking about the sacks. I'm talking about him speeding up his process and the process, because it was sped up, led to inaccurate throws. He knew that rush was coming. He could feel it. Even if it wasn't there, it was there. It had an impact on every single play. I'm not talking about when it actually created pressure. The pocket might have been clean. It still impacted how quickly he was getting his feet set and ready to throw. But I think they probably looked at it and said, we're not going to be able to consistently run the ball. I thought there was more there in the run game for him. I was a little surprised we didn't get a little more design quarterback run. I was a little surprised they didn't do a little bit more on the perimeter in the run game. Like, if you look at Virginia Tech's game against
that last drive, Greg, spread them out and let him go. You had enough time to either get up there and spike the ball or run another play. How they didn't run him and design runs late when they had Miami spread out and worried about him throwing the football, that was I don't always like second guessing play calls, but like I was standing next to Rhett Lashley and Jimbo Fisher for the last 2 drives, and I'm like, I looked at Rhett and I was like, now you run your quarterback, and he's like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Now you let the kid go, and it just, I don't know. I think that's one that'll bother those guys for a while. They'll look back on that one for a long time.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
All right, 847. Continue to take your calls. Text in 205-834-9450. Back with more Mac and Cube next. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. So Miami moves on 10-3 over Texas A&M. A&M finishes 11-2. Miami jumps to 11-2. Carson Beck 14-20, 103, a touchdown, no picks. Marcel Reed 25 of 39, 237 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 15 carries for 27 yards for Reed. A&M rushed 35 times for 89 yards. Miami 28 times, 175 yards. Give Mark Fletcher a lot of credit, Greg. The O-line was good. I felt like they lived on the play was essentially duo, but they did it. It reminded me of what LSU did against South Carolina. Was that 2 years ago in Columbia with the one with the penalties and the interceptions, the pick sixes for Carolina that LSU came back and won, where LSU switched it up mid-game, and it was almost like this little sort of delayed walk the dog inside zone duo play. And what it does, it lets everything sort itself out, and then you get a hat on a hat, and your back hits the hole hard enough to be able to make it go. It was the way they operated it wasn't exactly the way you'd always see it, but it let them sort of separate the madness, then get engaged. And Fletcher's one of those guys that he doesn't hit it 100 miles an hour right out of the gate. You know, he's not super twitched up, so he's not hitting it too quickly, and that gives him the ability to make those cuts. I thought it was a great plan. I thought they executed that part of it well.
I loved how patient Fletcher was. If you watch Fletcher in his career, he's a good back, but he's more of a, 3 yards in a cloud of dust guy fall forward for a 6-yard gain. You know what I mean? That's kind of what he is. He's not really a guy that hesitates, not really a guy that dances. Like, he hits the hole at 100 miles an hour, and if the O-lineman's in his way, guess what? The O-lineman's going to get cleat marks up his back. That's just the way that's the way he runs. Now, I have a ton of respect for it. First and foremost, if I was an O-lineman, I wouldn't like it very much. But I have a ton of respect for it. I like it a lot. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see, all right, as they move forward against Ohio State, it's probably going to have to be a little quicker hitting. I don't think you're going to want to necessarily be slow. I don't think you want those slow developing run plays. It's probably going to have to go and get a bunch of dirty runs. Whereas against A&M, you kind of want the picture to clarify, and then you're in good shape.
Well, the one good thing about Fletcher, though, for a bigger back and who runs the way you described, like finish forward, hammer, he can slither through some really small creases. Like, he finds some really, really small gaps to be able to kind of sneak through. And that's one thing a lot of bigger backs can't do. And he has a really nice ability to be able to do that and find some small creases and be able to pick up extra yards. Tom is in Birmingham, wants to talk college football from over the weekend. Welcome into the show, Tom.
Hey, guys, 50 cent was more like 10 cent, but Paul said something that was incorrect at 7:20, and he said DeBoer's been there 3 years. He's not even been there 2 years. I'm not just trying to correct him, but just think what's happened in less than 2 years. He deserves a lot of credit. I don't know if y'all saw Venable's interview coming off the field in the first half, but, man, he was foaming at the mouth, and his brain was scrambled. I can't imagine he could get a coherent word out at halftime, but wanted your thoughts on that. And also, the Oklahoma pressure seemed like always came on our right side of the line over and over for all 4 quarters, and it forced Simpson to the left just about 90% of the time. Explain that to me. And I understand the missed calls and the high rush coming in being free, but why was that pressure always on the right side? Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Appreciate the call, Tom. I mean, I just think sometimes you have to go back and I would have to chart Greg field position. I'd have to start where you were on the field, what hash you're on, where the strength of the formation. I mean, a lot of that can play into it, but I do think teams go in and have an idea where they want to attack. And you're probably better suited attacking that side than the other. I don't know if it was that simple or not because I haven't really viewed the game that way, but maybe you saw it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Answer me this. Like, as I watched the offensive line, I didn't feel like there were a lot of guys that were just flat out getting beat.
No.
I thought it was a little more scheme than it was individual one-on-one losses.
I agree with that.
I'd have to go back and watch it again, but I didn't chart very many of those.
No, I think you had a loss or two by guards, maybe 1 or 2 by tackles, but it wasn't an onslaught of individual one-on-one pass rush wins. That didn't happen. So, from that perspective, I didn't view it as overly problematic. And
no,
you're going to get got sometimes just based on the protection that you're in. Based on how good the team is that you're playing. And that was a really good defense with 1, great players, and 2, a great scheme. So, therefore, that's a lot of the reasons that a lot of that was taking place.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it and I felt like the offensive line played pretty well, especially knowing how good those guys are on the other side. And look, it took a little while for them to get their feet wet. Like, they did not look good early. Like, I thought there was some leakage. I felt like it took them a little while to kind of anchor. Some of the pin and pull stuff, though, kind of loosened up the front just a hair. I just thought, and I honestly think that Ty did a good job of getting the ball out, man. Like, there in the second half, like, I thought he did a good job of just rip. Hey, guys covered, who cares? Let him go make a play. I thought it was really impressive, the adjustments that were made in this game. And, yeah, some were tactical, some were mindset. But guess what? You kind of have to have both when you're playing against a great defense like that.
Brian Nugent tweets in, comment on Ryan Williams, please.
He's 18.
Got to get him going. Got to get him going.
He could be a big help if he gets going.
Yeah,
I mean, he's doing everything. He's got, the flash glasses, whatever they are. He's got a drop the ball type game on his phone with an app that he uses for his eyes. I mean, just get on the damn jugs machine, man. Like, back with more next.